समस्त जन कल्याणे निरतं करुणामयं नमामि चिन्मयं देवं सद्गुरुं ब्रह्मविद्वरम् वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुम्. We begin verse 27 this time. And just before this, so the verse 26 has ended, that we have to negate all the negative vasanas in us, and you have to, there is no waiting time, as I said, there should not be a gap. Alongside, you should replenish the mind with noble thoughts, with thoughts of the divine, with thoughts, and then that helps the mind to flush out negativities, and there's a recycling of the mental thoughts. Now, verse 27, I'll read it first. प्रशान्तमनसं ह्येनं योगिनं सुखमुत्तमम् उपैति शान्तरजसं brahmabhutam. Okay, now sukha uttam. Now you see, the human intellect the world over is utilitarian in nature. Every human being, before he does anything, wants to know, how will I benefit? And as they say in the West, what will I get? What will I get? Huh? This is the common refrain. So now when they want to know what will they get, this verse is promising what a person who does this kind of sadhana or does meditation will get. It is not just peace of mind, or it is not just de-stressing as most of the people think it is. It's not just de-stressing. So also the quality of your meditation, the benefit that you get. And don't think that you keep on doing it for years and then later on sometime you will get the benefit. No, it is not an annual interest. It is not a monthly wage. It is a cash down every time when you perform. So it is not this that you have to wait or something. Whether it's a bank holiday or not a bank holiday, the interest will come immediately. The reward comes immediately. Okay? Agitations quietened and joy floods in. This is the very simple arithmetic. That as many agitations as drop down, that much of joy comes in. And see, you see, the thing is, the world gets after you if you are holding on to something. They want to snatch it from you, right? But if mentally you are not holding on to anything, it doesn't matter whether that thing comes or goes. Then who can trouble you? Nobody can trouble you at all, because you are sitting in your own air conditioned comfort. So no matter how hot it is outside, the weather doesn't affect you, right? So you are sitting in your AC room. It's like that. That joy which you gain, that peace which you gain, is there for you to enjoy and for you to see. Now then, people have other methods of searching joy in the world, and that is what they encourage desires. See, all your TV ads encourage desires, all your newspaper ads encourage desires, even telephonic, now they are doing telemarketing. So even on telephone, they keep ringing you up and asking, you want the membership of this club, you want this card, you want a loan, you want this. So they whip up desires for you. Now if you fall for those desires, that is called targeting. In psychology, they tell you which age group is this ad targeting. Look at the word they use, target. That means aap maro to maro, they should get their benefit, right? So if you go for it, Then what happens is you run about, hmm, and then you weep, then you cry, you hit your head against things, and then you rub it, and then you cry, and then again you run after something else. This is one method. The other is that even when you run after something and you have the capability of attaining it, okay, it is fulfilled also. That is the worst tragedy, because you get it also after so much of trouble. And then what happens is that you lose interest in it, or that particular thing starts giving you trouble. As Gurudev used to say, the desired object dies in your own arms, in your own embrace. That means it is no more fascinating for you. You see your own life right from when you were a child and you were growing up and all that. How many things you ran after, how many things you desired. And then when you got them, very soon you saw something else and you wanted that, and this you lost interest. Anything that you can possess and you have, you lose interest in it because you take it for granted. Huh? So that is another one. Acha, then what happens? It's like this: when you run after something, first Gurudev's example, I am reminded. He used to say, first you ask for a lathi on your back. When you get the lathi, that is very painful. Then you enjoy the massage after that. The applying of the balm and the massage. So why get the lathi first of all, right? Now, divinity reflected in a quiet mind is like a fragrance which is in your pocket. It is all the time available to you. The moment you get back into your mind or you put your hand in your pocket, it is there. You don't have to go anywhere. It is even a little bit sukh of that meditation that you get. थोड़ा सा भी सुख अगर आपको एक्सपीरियंस हो जाए, it is addictive. You run after it then, and nobody has to tell you to meditate. You do it again and again, and you do it regularly because you realize the benefits. You realize how much of sukh you get. Now, akalmasham is the word he uses. Akalmasham means without blemish, without dirt. Is the same word as amala, vimala. Mala means filth, dirt. Okay? Amala, vimala, nirmala. All these words say without dirt, pure. In other words, pure. See, water, when it's muddy, you can't call it pure water. Okay, na? Now, but the water, pure water, has got no filth. So, mud is something other than water, but it has the capability of dirtying water. So, mind by itself is pure, but the quality of thoughts you entertain makes it dirty or even purer. So, the thoughts are like the mud. So, the lesser the mud, the purer the mind. And it says, देखो bucket of water में जो reflection पड़ता है, there's a bucket full of water. The reflection is dependent on the clarity of the water. The clearer the water, the more beautiful and true to the original is the reflection. If the water is muddy, have you seen the reflection of the sun? No matter how bright the sun is, the reflection will be muddy. So that is the equipment, your mind. Your mind will determine how happy or unhappy, how joyful or unjoyful you are. So it really depends on you how to be. Now let's come to the next verse. So this is the Sukha, Uttama Sukha. It says Sukham Uttamam. That is what you will get. It's a rare kind of sukh that you will attain by meditation. युञ्जन्नेवं सदात्मानं योगी विगतकल्मषः सुखेन ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम् अत्यन्तं सुखमश्नुते. This verse is also, look what it is promising. It is promising Brahma Sansparsham Atyantam Sukham, the rarest kind of joy, the infinite bliss. It is promising. I read the translation. The yogi, always engaging the mind thus in the practice of yoga, freed from sins. ये देखो, vigata kalmasha is the word he is using. Now, vigata kalmasha means free from sins. Kalmasha, kalik जानते हो? Impurity. And vigat means that is past, that is gone by, that is vanished. So vigata kalmasha means that all your sins washed away, all your sins gone. So vigata kalmasha, and that is the yogi always engaging the mind thus. Now when it says always, देखो ये word है sada. Sada तो जानते हैं ना सब लोग, sada means always, right? So sadatmanam, that means all the time the yogi's mind has to practice being with the divinity and realizing that he is divine all the time. Now, another explanation for this when always is that at the time of meditation, because this chapter is on meditation. So some of the critics say, and some Mahatmas also say, that when he says Sadatmanam, it is at the time when he is practicing meditation. But see, what happens is that the more and more you entertain this thought of who you actually are, and you connect yourself to the true self and understand that you are the true self, you have to logic it out. So I have done it enough in the previous chapters, so I don't want to repeat, but you can easily understand that the physical body is not you. You can easily understand that. And more so, you understand it very, very clearly when somebody dies. When you see a dead body, you very clearly understand that this is not my uncle who was there in that body. It is a shell of my uncle. If you did not understand it like that, if you thought that the body was your uncle, do you think you could have gone and burnt it to ashes? Think. If you thought that that body is your uncle, you will never go and burn it. But you understand it very clearly that the thing that I called my uncle is not there anymore. He has left this body. He has passed away. See the words also? He has passed away. Now we can do a lot on this, but I don't want to do that. But during the time of meditation, when you go on practicing this thing, you slowly learn to have this kind of thought always, always. And like they say in the second chapter, that whenever you see something that can disturb you, like a tortoise, you withdraw your limbs inside. Similarly, like a tortoise, you withdraw your mind. You immediately withdraw it into yourself. Okay, let things happen, whatever is happening. You know, how does it matter? When you think about it with reference to time, think about it with reference to the generations gone by, think about it with reference to people who have been so powerful, so rich, so this. How does it matter? Doesn't matter. These are very small things that are taking place, right? So here, when he says Sadatmanam, slowly your mind understands that it is doesn't matter. Nothing really is that important that you should lose your peace for it. So he says the yogi word he is using because of the Yunjan Nevam. Yunja, the word yuja means to join. The word yuj means to join, yoke is the same word, yog is the same word. Huh? The one who is practicing yoga. So sadatmanam, that means he is atma sthita. Sada atma mein sthita. During meditation, first he has to practice to be alert, to be vigilant, and all the time guard his mind from imagining that his body is real and that his body is talking, his body is walking, his body is thinking, body is eating. It cannot. Mm. So you have to guard your mind in meditation from derailing and running away. He can be very alert. There should be no thoughts. Try this, that there should be no thought, not even the thought that today's meditation is so good. Today I have been able to still my mind. Let me see whether I keep it. See, your mind has again started thinking. How long can I maintain it? I wish it will not go away. So you're already chatting with yourself, isn't it? There has to be no thought at all, not even about meditation. You have to slowly slip into that bliss. You have to slowly merge into that uttam sukha. And then the intensity of meditation burns out a whole lot of vasanas, a whole lot of desires. Gurudev used to use the word roasted, that a whole lot of vasanas get roasted. Now, like a roasted seed cannot sprout. Similarly, a desire that is burnt out will never again spring into I want. कितनी सारी चीजों की desire आपकी, even in this life, those things have dropped from your mind, haven't they? Cycle drops from your mind, the fascination of riding a cycle. Then you want a motorbike, then that motorbike goes, then you want a small car, that small car goes, then you want a bigger car, you want a sedan, then you want a luxury, isn't it? So, aren't you changing your desire? Aren't you changing your toys? Because you are already through with that smaller toy. And so, those desires burn out in meditation. The more the desires burn out, the happier is your mind. The happier is your mind. More peaceful is your mind. The more you hanker after things, I want, I want, I want, that much of uh, agitation your mind will have. It has to be single focused in all your activities. If your mind is single focused in all your activities, try doing this. When you are doing any one activity, just concentrate on that. वो जो है ना multitasking, don't try that thing. That shatters the mind, because the mind is the same. You are channelizing it into different directions. So what happens? Like I always give you the example of a river, the flow of a river. If you have cut channels here, there, and everywhere, the flow of the river becomes slow. The force of the water becomes less powerful. The mind is the same. When you concentrate the mind and focus the mind on any one thing, only then great things are achieved. See all the discoverers, see all the inventors, artists, writers, everybody. They forget to eat also. They forget to change their clothes. They forget to bathe. Their mind is so focused, isn't it? You know that famous story about Einstein. There are lots of jokes about Einstein. I don't even know whether it's true or not. But this is a story that his wife told him that I'm going out to my mother's house for 7 days, but you must remember to put on a fresh shirt every day. I've hung up 7 shirts over there for you to wear one fresh one every day. So when she came back, She said, "Did you wear a fresh shirt every day?" He said, "Yes." And she found that he was wearing all the seven, one on top of the other. Now, not that he, Einstein didn't know that he has to take off his shirt and wear another one. His mind was so focused on his research work that he only remembered that his wife has said, "You have to wear a new shirt every day." So he used to take it off the hanger and put it on. That's all. Now, this is, whether it's a joke or a story, the point it is being said is that he could not think beyond his work. Now, that is all with everybody who concentrates. So a meditator also has to be very, very single focused, and then slowly that single focus in meditation translates to single focus in your activities in the daytime, and therefore the meditational mind is able to, becomes very, very creative. It is able to perform beautifully. It is able to reproduce great works of art, literature, and others. Gurudev used to give the example of Rajasthani women who stay single focused with three, four pots on their head where they go to fetch water. And it's a group of girls. If you see them walking, they go giggling, laughing, talking, gossiping, and they walk almost in a dance like swinging manner. And they go and fill those 4, 5 pots, put them on their heads, and they come back chatting, laughing, joking, clapping their hands and all that. But all the time, their mind is focused that the pot should not fall. That focus they never leave. So, see, in every activity that you are doing, maintain that focus. Never give up that focus. Because the moment you start thinking that you are this body, then everything that is related to the body gains undue, unnecessary importance in your mind. And then it rides your mind, it agitates your mind. Me and mine, हो गया ना? Because from the body comes me and mine. Okay. So that is now you need. Okay, now let us see another example that Gurudev used to give, and how the mind in meditation has to rise. For the beginners, I agree it is very, very difficult. Meditation is extremely difficult to control the mind, to harness the mind into single thoughts, to quieten the mind is very difficult. Gurudev ka again another example given by him was that of a rocket taking off. Okay, all the preparation has been done, fine. But when the rocket has to take off, the gravitational pull of the earth is so strong that initially it requires a lot of power. It requires a lot of thrust to send the rocket up, because the gravity of the earth is pulling the rocket down, isn't it? Hmm. So then, as slowly it moves into outer space, and the gravitational pull of the earth becomes less, then there is no effort for the rocket to rise. The earth is not pulling it, right? So less amount of fuel is required, less speed. Even if it takes, it still is going at the same speed. फिर क्या होता है? It slowly, easily it goes out. That is called vigata kalmasha. When it becomes pure, the dirt and filth of the vasanas, the desires, is not pulling it, the mind down. So the mind easily rises, swiftly, easily. Now then what happens? As the rocket starts nearing the moon, supposing the rocket is aimed at the moon. So as it starts nearing the moon, once it comes into the gravity of the moon, you can switch off the engine, because the gravity of the moon will pull it. will suck the rocket in. If you do not switch off the thrust of the rocket, it will go and crash on the moon. So they just let it go easily, and the moon sucks it in. Similarly, Gurudev used to say is meditation, that as and when your mind can lift itself from the grosser levels to the sublimer, rarefied levels, then slowly it becomes easier and easier to float into meditation. And once you reach the very high point of divinity, at that time, what happens? Then your mental purusharth is not needed. आपको कुछ करना ही नहीं है. It happens. Just like the moon sucks the rocket in, same way it only just happens. Effortlessly this thing happens. Okay. Now then, ये देखो, ये जो वर्ड है ना, इसमें ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम. ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम अत्यंतम सुखम अश्रस. अत्यंतम सुख तो तुम्हें समझ में आ गया, बट ब्रह्म स्पर्शम, now many people intellectually argue that that means there are two things. अद्वैत कैसे हुआ जी? Because you contact the Brahma. ब्रह्म संस्पर्श, स्पर्श तो जानते हो ना? हाँ, तो ब्रह्म संस्पर्शम, that means Brahma is something else and you are something else, and you have contacted it. तो दो चीजें हो गई या नहीं हो गई? Think about it. This would be the question in any student's mind. This should come as a question in any student's mind, that you go on talking of Advait, Advait. Where is Advait? ये तो अद्वैत नहीं हुआ. Now you see, इसमें क्या है? Even the Brahmavid, जिसको आप ब्रह्मविद कहते हैं, the knower of Brahma. When you say the knower of Brahma, he knows Brahman intellectually. Brahmavid. Knowledge is the function of the intellect. This Brahmavid does not mean experiencing. ठीक है ना? वो knowledge में आ जाता है. But there is no knower. When there is no knower and known left, देखो, there is an experience where there is no knower and no known. It is one and the same thing. Again, the example given. First example I'm giving you is of the Ganges. The Ganges has got a shape, it has got a root, it has got a form, it has got a limited thing of water, it has got two embankments, and it is flowing into one direction. The name is Ganges. So there is form, there is name, there is flow. Once it merges into the Bay of Bengal, when it falls into the ocean, Bay of Bengal, then what does it become? It becomes the waters of the Bay of Bengal. It is no longer Ganges. The Ganges water becomes salty. It becomes sea water. It has no more the shape of a river. It has got the shape of the ocean. It has got the name of the ocean. It has got the qualities of oceanic water. So the identity of the Ganga has merged into the ocean. It has become one with the ocean. Uske baad there are no two things. There is no Ganga and the ocean. It is just ocean. Okay. Now the second is the sun's reflection. Dekho, the sun's reflection you will say is a different thing and the sun is a different thing. दो चीजें हो गई. अच्छा. Now when you empty the reflective medium, which is the water in the bucket, ठीक है, उसमें सूरज की रिफ्लेक्शन पड़ रहा है. When you empty the bucket, the reflection has merged with the sun. You can't say where did the reflection go. That question is not valid anymore. the question gets dissolved. Where did the reflection go? The reflection is not separate from the sun. It never came and went. It was only the reflecting medium which showed it. It doesn't travel from the sun and travel back, no, because it is not a thing. Okay. Now, the third example of the Dvait and Advait is the famous example of the dreamer and the waker. The dreamer, once he realizes that he wakes up, what does he become? He becomes the waker. There is no dreamer left to realize that he has become the waker. There's no dreamer left anywhere. ना वो पहले था, because dreamer was the same thing as the waker. Imagining, kalpana. Dream is a kalpana shakti, projection. So these three. So please understand that it is not two things when he says Sukhena Brahma Sansparsham Atyantam Sukhamashtamasti. So the moment he realizes that he is the Brahman himself, the moment that Jiva Bhav is gone, that I am me and that is my Lord, no, I am him. Soham. All your Mahamantras say the same thing. Tattvamasi. Soham, isn't it? क्या कहते हैं महावाक्यas? Mahavakyas all tell you the same thing. You are that. These days, a whole lot of astrophysicists, a whole lot of astronomers, a whole lot of scientists, quantum physics, and all that, they are all discovering that everything that you see and touch and feel does not exist. Imagine that they are themselves saying scientifically that what you see is an illusion, it doesn't exist. And Vedanta said it long back, long back. So you can't say that action contact the sun. You can't say when did the reflection become the light in the sun. These questions do not stand ground. They are invalid questions. Okay, come to verse. And sukh you get, atyantam sukham means the highest possible bliss that you attain in meditation. Come to verse 29. सर्वभूतस्थमात्मानं सर्वभूतानि चात्मने ईक्षते योगयुक्तात्मा सर्वत्र समदर्शनः. Read the translation. It says, with the mind harmonized by yoga, he sees the self abiding in all beings, and all beings in the self, he sees the same everywhere. देखो भैया, ये जो है, look what it says. It says sarva bhutastha matmanam. That means he understands that the same atma, atmanam, same atma is in sarva bhutastha. That atma is everywhere. The question in the mind of the student before this verse is that, okay, supposing this man realizes, the meditator totally understands, 100% understands that he is divinity, he is the divine. Okay, but then he has to function in this world. When he comes back, the world of things and beings and people and situations is the same. And he has to function in this world of plurality, though he knows all is one. So how does he function in this world? Because his knowledge is saying something else, and what he sees around him is something different. You see, now he can say, I know all is one, and yet those that I meet do not know. isn't it? I may know that the same Atma is in everybody, but all those people that I'm meeting do not know that the same Atma is in everybody. Now, to this, there is this example of Mr. Jones. I always give this example, some of you may have heard it, that Mr. Jones thought that he was a worm. Now, birds eat worms, isn't it? So he was afraid of all birds. No matter whichever bird he saw, he was scared that he will be eaten up by that bird. His friends took him to a psychiatrist or a therapist or whatever. And of course, the psychotherapist lay him down on a bench and then wohi won't ka, okay, I'll be charging $500 per hour consultation, which Mr. Jones paid. And that man slowly convinced him that he is a human being, he is not a worm. And birds can't eat human beings, they cannot even peck at human beings, they are afraid of human beings. You be convinced, Mr. Jones, that you are a human being like me, you are another man. So Mr. Jones was finally convinced and all that. He said, no, you've taken the fear out of my mind. Thank you very much. He paid the money, started walking back. As he went round the bend, he saw a bird sitting there. And Mr. Jones thought that that bird sitting on that pole is looking directly down at him. So he ran back to the psychiatrist and said, no, listen, you've counseled me all that, but there's a bird sitting there. So he said to let the bird sit. You know that you are not a worm. So he said, yes, I know I am not a worm, but does the bird know? See, does the bird know? If Mr. Jones, he will not ask this question. If he was sure that he's a human being, he will not ask this question, that does the bird know? Whether the bird knows or the bird doesn't know, the bird cannot peck at him. And where is the trouble? Tell me. The trouble is in our own minds, that the world is going to swallow us up. The world is going to be bad to us. Ye ho jayega, wo ho jayega. And we are beautiful. We have the beautiful knack of imagining all kinds of calamities that can befall us. Right? Just like Mr. Jones. You have to be sure in your mind who you are. And once you are sure of that, you are never going to be the poor, sorrowful you. Otherwise, you can keep self-pitying yourself as to imagining all kind of things that can happen to you. This man is one with the ultimate reality. And see, another example that is given is that when all your body parts are what? All your body parts are you. You know it or not? Yes. Now, supposing some body part is giving you trouble, will you go and give it trouble back again? Tell me. No, you will not. No matter how painful that hand is causing pain to you, the rest of your body, the rest of the body will not start causing pain to that hand, because you understand very well that that hand is also you. The hand is you yourself. So you love all your body parts, whether they are ugly or beautiful, fat or thin, and whether they are diseased or they are painful. You still do not want. I've known people who have got gangrene in their feet, yet they do not want an amputation because the leg belongs to them. Isn't it? That is the last resort. They say amputation is the last resort. This is my body. I don't want to cut it off. Similarly, this Mahatma, who is with the world, who is in the world, he understands that it is the same Atma everywhere. Whereas birth, sustenance, and dissolution or death, they all are in the range of the five elements. Okay. Now, all the five elements belong to everybody. Every body is made of those five elements. वो भी similarity होगी. Same is that great grand energy, that divine power that runs through this matter vesture everywhere. And it is so blended into the matter vestures that you cannot distinguish one from the other. That is the concept of that Shiva Ardhanarishwar. Shiva is the pure Brahma, divine, and Parvati, his wife, is the one through whom he functions. So, and they are blended into one form in Hindu scriptures because they cannot function independently of each other. They have to take power to function. It is something like saying, see, this Shiva Parvati concept, they are one and the same thing, but the functioning differently. It is like saying Mr. John and his capabilities. Now, there are not two different, you talk of them as two, but they are not two different things. Mr. John and his capabilities are Mr. John alone. Right. Hmm? So, this is done. Now, so you do not hate any part, you do not love any part more than that one. You do not say. Now, here, that is why these words Sarva Bhutatma, Sarva Bhuta Sthita, and Samadarshana. Samadarshana means equivision. Equivision is all body parts look different. They all have different names. They all have different functions, but they are all you. They are all you. Supposing somebody comes into your house and says that, should I cut off your tongue, or should I cut off your ear, or should I cut off your hand? Which part do you want to get cut off? Can you name any? No, they are all you. So this is the Samadarshana that he has got on. Now in Samadhi, when you are in Samadhi, your entire projection folds back into you. The entire projection folds back into you. You do prayana from your body to the pure self. You withdraw from your body and the body identifications. When you understand you are not the body, if you are not the body, then nothing which is connected to your body, whether your possessions or your son, daughter, they have come out of your body, but they do not belong to you. That thing we never, the Lord has used your body to create them. You have not even created them. And when you understand all that in meditation, you slowly start leaving the world. You slowly start disassociating from all the five layers of your body, and you come only to the reality of who you are, because of whom your body is functioning, because of whom everything moves. It is. So then it is all pervading. People ask that if it is all pervading, ये देखो सर्वभूत स्थिता. So they say, why can't we see it? How come we don't see it if it is all pervading? देखो, it is like the fish asking, where is water? Water is below it, above it, all around it, inside it. It cannot live without water. Its sustenance is water. It breathes water, it exhales water. And then the fish can't see water and asks, where is water? It is like us asking, where is space? Where is space? You keep talking about space, space. Where is space? You yourself are in space. There is space inside you, outside you, and everywhere. So it is like that, you know. Now the elements are also so subtle. See, if for that matter, you can't even see air. You only see, you know that there is air from the effects of air. When a branch moves, you know हवा चल रही है. You can feel air on your body, you can't see air. So this element is so subtle, much subtler than air or anything, air or space or anything. You cannot see it with your fleshy eyes. It has got no form. So in meditation, the mind expands into this formlessness. The mind embraces formlessness and you become formless. Now come to the 30th verse. Yo mam pashyati sarvatra sarvam cha mayi pashyati tasyaham na pranashyami sacha me na pranashyati. This is also a famous verse. It says, he who sees me, yo mam pashyati, everywhere, and sees everything in me, sarvacha may pashyati. He never gets separated from me, nor do I get separated from him. Now this is the Lord himself, or you can say the reality itself presenting what it is. And here he says that there is nothing separate from me, but somebody who is able to see that. यहाँ पे ये जो पश्यति word है ना, please understand, this पश्यति word does not mean see with the fleshy eyes. वैसे तो पश्य, the word means to see. Now here pashyati means who recognizes, who understands. देखो आपने, have you seen two people talking, when one goes on saying you see, it is like this, it is like this, it is like this, you see, and the other one says I see, I see, I see. देखा है ना? साउथ इंडिया में बहुत होता है this I see, you see, yes 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 I see. Now that when they say I see or you see does not mean with the eyes. They are using the word pashyati, but they mean who cognizes, who understands, who knows for sure, who has got this vision, let us say, who has got this vision of reality, which is all one. Usko wo pashyati keh rahe hain. So he is saying here that he recognizes the functioning of that one reality as one in everything. The word uses sarvatra. Sarvatra means in all places, in all times, in all situations, in all beings. That is sarvatra. Sarvatra just does not mean everywhere, in every place. It means in every situation, in every human being, in every object, in at all times. ये पूरा ये सर्वत्र का मतलब है. Okay. So the focus of the mind just has to shift. In meditation, we are talking of meditation, this whole chapter. In meditation, the focus of the mind has to shift. All body parts are pervaded by you. That energy pervades the whole body. If it does not pervade the body, that part will stop functioning. You get me? That part will not work. और ये जो है कठोपनिषद से त्वमेव त्वमेव tat त्वमेव tat. And it Kathopanishad mein hai, aata ye baar baar, and it goes on repeating this thing. Tat त्वमेव tat. Tat त्वमेव tat. Gurudev used to say, see, it is saying it musically. It is saying it, this is tabla playing. He says, Ke tat त्वमेव tat is tabla, going on telling you with its beats that I am that and that is me. I am that, that is me. That is the same thing. It is like every dream object is you or not. The dream tree, the dream house, the dream tiger, the dream forest, the dream person is all you or not. It is all you. You pervade the entire dream, right? Same way, it says, now Ishavasya Upanishad also, the fourth mantra of the Ishavasya says the same thing. It says, आपकी book में लिखा हुआ है, न vijugupsate. न vijugupsate means that, it means that I never disappear for him. I am always there for him. I never disappear for him because he knows the reality. He knows that that great grand energy, consciousness, reality, God, call him what you like. नाम आप दीजिए जो आप नाम पसंद करते हैं. Because these days people have a problem even with the word God. So I'm not using the word God. हाँ, कि God क्या God होता है, because they imagine God to be a human being like us. That's why they have a problem. And sitting over there like a sultan and dispensing justice, partially being giving luck to somebody and ill luck to somebody, disease to somebody and health to somebody, ऐसा नहीं है. So this great grand reality, he says, the one who recognizes me as such, this is the Lord himself saying that I am never hidden from him, I never disappear from him. And this is not the Lord Krishna that is speaking. It is the higher in you speaking to the lower in you. The reality in you speaking to the gross form of yours. That understand that there is nothing else excepting me. And I am the one because of whom I am in all and because of whom everything functions. Dekho, I always give the example of the heartbeat, the pulse, the digestive system. Tell me, are you moving them? Put your hand on your pulse and honestly ask yourself, am I charging some battery by which this is continuously pulsating? No. Put your hand on your chest and feel the heart. Do you have any power to make it continuously beat? It started beating without asking you, and it will stop beating without asking you, right? So then, और क्या? आप सोचो, anything at all. Just think of anything at all. Even your digestive system. When you eat and go to sleep, who digests the food for you? आप तो सो रहे हैं. The entire digestion, the whole night, who is doing? Ask yourself. It is a power that is all pervasive. It is the same power that moves the stars, isn't it? It is the same power that puts planets in their place and there's movement so that one astral body does not collide with another. To the second, he is moving them in a perfect symmetry. There is a design. You and I have not created it. There are so many things that we do not even know about. Like gravity was discovered. Doesn't mean that it didn't exist before. It did. Similarly, all your discoveries, there are so many more things to discover. But there is some power that is running all this. Hmm? The stars, the moon, the sun, nature, even a seed. The seed bursts on its own. The seed has the potentialities of the entire tree, the flower, the leaves, the fruit, doesn't it? Who put it there? There is some design, there is some purpose. The fragrance in the fruit and flowers, the nutrition in the fruit, the shape of the fruit. Just imagine, like if you really want to see God, attune yourself with nature. That's the easiest way to see God. Easiest way. Not a single leaf of a single tree is the same, isn't it? You know that scientifically, you know. Look at the variety. Amazing. Created on its own. Hmm? So just always keep all this in your mind. So sublimate your thoughts, and the mind should repeatedly think of this, repeatedly think of the reality. And when you direct your mind towards your goal, slowly, slowly, the mind will get used to thinking in those kind of channels. And when it thinks in those kind of channels, it will get habituated, because the mind is a child of habit. It repeats itself and repeats itself and repeats itself. You stop acting or stop thinking in a certain direction, the mind slowly, slowly also gives it away. But the more you give attention to anything, it will stick in your mind all the time. And but all the time, see, the mind that is agitated and forgets this reality, depression and dejection belong to that mind. And a mind that constantly remembers this, huh, constantly remembers this, he is forever happy. He is forever blissed out. A king's son, even if you dress him like a beggar and he's roaming around the streets at night, does that king's son for a second think that he's the beggar? No. He is assured in his reality, whose son I am. So understand that he who created you, he is your father and you are his child. Live with that. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamadachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti 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 Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.